So you're playing Genshin, you're doing some 10 pulls, and while you don't get a 5-star, you do get 4-star Yao Yao. Now, what do you get with Yao Yao besides the small character that Madame Ping trained? Well, Yao Yao is a polearm wielding Dendro user, and in this video, we're going to talk about Yao Yao, specifically my Yao Yao, who I have built for Bountiful Core. Yes, I did get Nefer, and yes, Nefer is most likely going to replace Yao Yao on my Bountiful Core team, but I still wanted to talk about Yao Yao in a Bountiful Core team. Now, we are going to be talking about specifically my Yao Yao, so she is not a healer Yao Yao, she is an EM built Yao Yao. So we're not necessarily going to be talking about her healing. Her healing does come through her HP, which you can try to get in the substats of the artifacts, but that's not necessarily what we're going to be talking about here. Now, as you can see, my Yao Yao is level 90. She does have 945 EM, which is below the threshold that we want to hit of 1000 whenever it comes to something like a Bountiful Core team. Now, before we look at the full build of her, let's look at her kit real quick. Her skill throws out Yugui, which does Dendro damage and will heal your character on the field if they drop below a certain percent HP. That's it. That's all that he does, right? That's all that Yugui does. Her burst is going to summon a ton of Yuguis, and as you dash or jump with Yao Yao, she is going to do a bunch of Dendro damage as well. She's going to be throwing the white radishes at the enemies as well. And during this, of course, she is going to do team-wide healing, based again on her HP. So all in all, pretty simple, pretty easy for her base kit. Now let's look at my Yao Yao specifically. So I'm going to be running Dragon's Mane. One, it fits with her aesthetic, in my opinion. I really like the Chinese aesthetic on this, but the Elemental Mastery, 221 Elemental Mastery from this weapon going to Yao Yao is phenomenal. Yes, you can use something like Kitai and Crossbeer if you're finding that her or her burst is not available whenever you want it to be or as often as you want it to be. You can swap to Kitai and Crossbeer, but then you're going to be losing Elemental Mastery. This gives you a ton of Elemental Mastery. Now for artifacts, I am running 4-piece Instructor set. Why am I running 4-piece Instructor instead of something like Gilded? Well, because Yao Yao, while she will get some of the blooms, she is not going to be my main driver of the bloom reaction in this team. So I want her to get the 80 Elemental Mastery from the 2-piece set, but I also want her to be giving out the extra 120 Elemental Mastery from the 4-piece set because it gives it to all party members. So we can get a ton of Elemental Mastery onto our entire team where everybody, Nilou included, can break 1000 EM using this set as well as Ki and Nilou and Nihida's burst. So as you can see, once we cause the elemental reaction and we spread out that EM, we activate that 4-piece on the Instructor set, Yao Yao now has 1173 EM. Well over the 1000 mark, which is phenomenal, which is great. I love that my Yao Yao has that amount. Also, she is getting a little bit of an EM buff from either her Constellation or her passive. I think it's her Constellation. I can't remember off the top of her head, but it's giving a little bit more than that 120 Elemental Mastery buff, because then that would have taken it to, I think, 1065, but right now we're at 1173. But still, she does have over 1000 Elemental Mastery with that artifact set, which is great. Now, one of the big reasons that we have this specific set on Yao Yao is because if we activate Nilou with Ki, and we activate Nihida's burst, and we activate the 4-piece Instructor set on this Yao Yao, I can get Coco, who is my main on-field Hydro driver in this team, at 1654 Elemental Mastery, which is insane. That is so much Elemental Mastery that we are getting on Coco right now for the specific team. Yes, it's going to go down whenever we swap to Nefer, but I believe that the Natlan, or the not Natlan, the Nodcry EM set does give an Elemental Mastery buff through the whole team. Either that or it's their weapons. I can't remember right now. It's early morning. You can probably hear it in my voice when I'm recording this. It's early morning. My brain's not fully functioning right now. I haven't had my morning chai latte. So we're going to run through this domain real quick. The thing with this specific artifact set having Instructor, you have to go through Nilou's kit, getting her Hydro Aura ring around her, activating everything with Ki and activating Bountiful Cores, then go to Yao Yao and drop Yugui. We need to cause a reaction with Yao Yao to get the Elemental Mastery to spread out. It will be much easier later on, but we need to force this first one. After that point, we can then go through Nihida, do Nihida's kit, go through Coco, do Coco's kit. If we're low health or after we've dropped the Jellyfish, Mr. Jellyfish, do Coco's kit, we can go to Yao Yao, use her ulti, and jump around a ton, so that way we can get the most out of Yao Yao's ulti and Yao Yao's kit. We have to make sure that Mr. Jellyfish is on the field, or else Yao Yao won't be able to cause enough blooms with just Nilou's aura. At that point, we can then go back into Coco, activate Coco's burst, heal up, right? Because Bountiful Cores do self-damage to the whole team, so we have to make sure that we have some healing. I'm just hoping that Coco's healing will be enough with Nefer. I think it'll be fine. I think it will be fine. We're going to test it. We're going to see. I think as long as we can drop the jellyfish and stay within the jellyfish, then it's going to be fine with Nefer. But we just have to make sure that we are causing that first reaction. And we have to make sure that Yao Yao has some bloom ownership, that she has some kind of reaction to continuously trigger that instructor set. Now, you might have also noticed on the instructor set that it is a 4-piece instructor set with the 5th piece being a 5-star artifact. Just make sure that it is going to be your sands, your goblet, or your circlet, so that way you can get more elemental mastery, because the base stats of the 5-star artifacts is inherently higher than a 4-star artifact. So we're going to be doing like the flower and the plume are going to be the instructor set, and then 2 of the last 3 are going to also be instructor set, the last one being a 5-star of anything. Let it be your off-piece 5-star artifact set, EM main stat, HP substats. That's kind of what we're going for with having this on Yao Yao, as well as some ER. Of course, we want the ER. Now, why are we running instructor set versus something like Gilded? Well, in this particular team, yes, Yao Yao would have more elemental mastery from having 5-star artifacts, and yes, she would actually be losing like 20 elemental mastery off of the 4-piece set, but she would still gain a little bit more elemental mastery having the 5-star artifacts base stats. It is because we want that elemental mastery to also be spread around. Yao Yao is not our main on-field driver. We want her to get a couple of blooms every now and then to keep the 4-piece active, but we don't want her to own a lot of the blooms. Coco and Nikita need to own most of the blooms because they have the most elemental mastery. So Yao Yao in this team is going to be buffing everybody else while also owning 1 or 2, so we still want her to have a ton of elemental mastery, but she won't have as much as the other 2, and that's completely fine in this, because we're using that 4-piece set to buff the rest of the team more so than just herself or her own elemental mastery. That is why we are not using Gilded Dreams or not using 2-piece. We are using instructor set to get that 120 elemental mastery to our other teammates, which in my opinion is more valuable than Yao Yao herself having a little bit higher elemental mastery. Now, like I said, I am going to be most likely replacing Yao Yao with Nefer. In this Bountiful Core team, I am still going to be keeping the instructor set kind of on Yao Yao, or at least having this 4-piece elemental mastery instructor set readily available, because in my opinion, this is one of the best 4-star sets, and it should be something that you gradually try and get over time, is a couple of different instructor sets, right? Maybe one for HP. If you have somebody like Baiju or even Candace can use it in very specific circumstances. So this is just a good set overall to have. And I believe that if you're doing something with like lunar charge reactions, then instructor set on Sucrose, I believe, can also be fairly good to share the elemental mastery around, because you're not necessarily going to be trying to shred the enemy of resistances. So having the instructor set over having something like VV on Sucrose can actually be really beneficial in something like a lunar charge team. So having this can be very, very good for multiple reasons, not just Yao Yao in a Bountiful Core team. Now that's going to be it for this video. Cookie has green hair, I have green hair, and I will see you in the next one.